I think many of us, we are going to learn a lot from all mothers from around the world.
Yeah, exactly. We need to start a mummy union, I think.
Yes, I think every day we have so many activities and so many different roles that I think each of us can enrich another one's life.
Hi, and welcome to Motherhood Around the World, a podcast that celebrates mums everywhere and dives into the nuance of parenting in different countries. In the final episode for season 1, I spoke to Claudia, who lives in Guatemala with her husband and 3 daughters. Our interview was wide-ranging, but please note that this episode will mention infertility and access to abortion. Thank you so much for joining me, Claudia. It's nice to get online with you.
You're very welcome for inviting me to this really nice podcast.
You live just outside Guatemala City. Have you always lived in that area?
Well, basically, yes. Ever since I got married and have kids, when I was single, I really lived in Guatemala City, closer to all the activity. But then when I got married and we started a family, we decided to move a little far away in the suburbs.
And what's your community like there? Who helps you out? Who's your team?
Throughout the years, my team has evolved. I have a few close friends that have remained throughout the years, and some other people have gone and some other people have come. And usually we have like a close group of friends that help each other. We give advice, we go out together. So I think the group is always evolving, but it's a close group. Over the years, you learn that the few important ones are the ones that are going to remain through thick and thin.
Tell me a little bit about your journey to pregnancy.
Well, I have 3 girls, and my journey to pregnancy was a little bit hard at the beginning because we got married and we didn't want to have kids right away. We wanted to have a house and travel and enjoy ourselves as a couple. And when we finally decided, okay, it's time to start like getting pregnant, it was difficult. My doctor said, don't worry, it's a process, it takes time. And he made some exams and said that I had some kind of or hormonal imbalances, and he gave me some medicaments and everything, but I couldn't get pregnant. The months passed, and we began to get, well, especially me, began the anxious, stressful period. So after 2 years, my doctor said that he wanted to do an operation in order to check everything from the inside. So before that, laparoscopic surgery, he said that he was thinking about 3 possibilities. One was that my fallopian tubes could be obstructed, and the solution was to like clean them. I don't know the medical term, but that was what he said. The other one could be that I have polycystic ovaries, and maybe there was cysts covering my ovaries, which was actually what I had. And the third one that really scared me a lot, and he didn't give me much explanation, was endometriosis, which over the time I learned that is something that affects many women around the world, and it's super complicated. So I got the cysts, and really after that, he kind of removed them. So after that, I got pregnant super easy with my first girl. And then the other 2 were easy, but the journey was super stressful. I was very lonely because I didn't know who else to talk beside my doctor. And also it was lonely and difficult because here in Guatemala, as a Latin country, people expect you to marry and start having kids very soon. And when you don't, sometimes people don't mind their own business, and they began like asking you, why you are not pregnant? When are you going to have a kid? And you don't have, it's your private life. You don't have to explain everyone about your problems. And it's super painful and it's lonely. At that time, I didn't know like if there was a group or I can talk to someone, having the social network was not as active. My oldest one is 20, so I only had like a little Facebook. There was no Instagram or all the communities and everything, so it was kind of lonely.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I understand the waiting game as well. The 2 week wait every time,
Yes.
every month, you have to wait those 2 weeks to do a
Yeah,
pregnancy test.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. That's awful. And I think now when I saw messages from younger women in their social media saying, "Look, I'm having this problem," and I said, "Look, I share my experience because it's a lonely period, and my husband understood it, but he is not a woman, so it's super lonely not to have someone suffering the same things that you are going through."
Do you think it's more open there now to discuss about?
I think yes, it's more open because of, I think mainly because of all the social
Yeah.
media. I think younger women are like more able to speak and to gather together and form groups or communities. And also, I think the world is changing, and also people are like being more considerate and respectful about especially here in Guatemala, about couples. Couples have their own time, and I think people are not as intrusive as they were, are asking all the time, why do you do not have children, or when are you going to have your first baby? Because also couples have changed. Here we are seeing now couples without children, couples with only one child. Here, people used to have like 5 or 6 kids. So it's changing, and people, I think, are changing as well. And younger women are like speaking out for themselves and getting together. And I think also there's more information available to everyone.
Tell me a little bit about the healthcare system in Guatemala, and then also what fertility support was available for you.
Okay, here in Guatemala, we have I'm going to tell you, we have a public system and a private system. Our public system, the one that it's provided by the state, is free, but it's not like the latest technology or the latest in everything. It's a super precarious system, and it's super crowded because many people here in Guatemala, it's a country of contrast. Many people don't have anything. So the public system is like very precarious. There's not much for everyone. And also we have been our stories with our corrupt government. So there's not much resource to help all the people that need it. For many of us, including me, we have to go to the private system. So we have to pay for everything. That's what I had. I have my private health insurance. I paid for my private doctor, my private checkups, and I had to pay for my pregnancy and my hospitalization as well. I had 3 C-sections with my girl, so we have to pay for that. And the cost is, I think it's expensive considering the public system, but it's not as expensive, I may say, as in the US, which I think is one of the most expensive countries for medical attention. But it's kind of hard because you have to pay for everything. You have to plan in advance because also the insurance system permits you to pay you the pregnancy, but you have to pay 12 months before you get pregnant. So it's kind of an investment in advance.
Yeah, you can't sign up at 8 months pregnant.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, you can sign that. And also, for example, single women that get pregnant, they don't get accepted for pregnancy health insurance.
Oh, that's going to make
You can only pay it if you are married and beforehand you start paying it. I think it's a discriminative policy because you can be single and decide, okay, I'm going to be single and have a child and I need my insurance, but they don't accept it. I'm not sure if it has changed, but I think it has not.
Is that because it's quite a religious country? Is that a religious issue or is it a logistical issue?
Well, I think it's kind of a religious marriage here is like very important. And I think that being single sometimes is, well, in not in every group, but in some groups is not like well accepted.
It's not like good for her. She's living.
Yeah, exactly. We used to be 100% of our population was Catholic up until I may say 20, 25 years ago when the evangelical churches started to come. So now it's almost half and a half. And some of those groups are like the ultra conservatives. So we have this kind of, let's say, a battle between advancing into progress and everything in every sense, and like the ultra conservatives that they say, oh no, we have to be super conservatives, marriage, not single people, pro life, pro conservative, and that's like kind of a battle here.
I did read that the maternal mortality rates in Guatemala are extremely high compared to worldwide figures. And I guess maybe making sure that any single women don't have access to private healthcare might be.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. And also, especially in the faraway villages of Guatemala, they're not like hospitals, only the health centers. And most of them are in precarious condition. They don't have a doctor. They just, at least some of them have a nurse, and they don't have like the medicines or all what it's need, the equipment to help the women. And also we have a problem with nutrition because, as I told you, we are a country of contrast. So many people, they live below the poverty line. So it's super hard for a woman to get pregnant and get like the vitamins and all the nutrition you need when you're pregnant. And that's why the mortality. And also we need more education for our women, because women sometimes they have like their religious influence, their own beliefs, so they don't know how to take care of themselves and take care of their baby and their little kids, especially with the basic hygiene things like washing your hands, like washing the things you're preparing. So we need to work on lots of things.
And if you don't mind me asking, what is the access to contraception there?
Well, the access to contraception, it depends, because privately you can have everything, like the long-term contraception, the one-time contraception, you can have everything. But on the public system, there is some not available, not at all times. And women are starting to learn about it, but sometimes they have trouble not getting the contraception, but having their husbands or their partners accepting it. Sometimes at the health centers or the health clinics, there are like ONGs. No, it's not ONGs, it's NGOs. I'm saying it backwards. I'm saying it in Spanish. The NGOs, sometimes they help and they distribute contraception, but they have found that, for example, a woman arrives with her husband and they have to convince like the husband to say yes. And sometimes the woman goes to the clinic and say, look, I need this contraception. I understand it, but please never ever tell my husband, because if he finds out that I am on a contraceptive method, he will be mad.
So I'm going to go ahead and guess there's not a lot of vasectomies happening over there.
No, there are not. The few that are, no, there are but a few. And most of the men think if you get a vasectomy, you're going to lose like all your manly power. So
in Australia, they throw you a party. You get a barbecue.
Oh, well, that would be nice. But here, it's like if you do that, you're not like a man. I think there's few. There is one NGO that does the vasectomies, I think it's almost free, but they don't get as many customers as I may think.
They don't have a line out the door.
No, they don't have. And here we also have like many macho guys. And also I think women are used to depend on their husband, on their companion. Many women don't think they have their own rights, and they don't think that they can think for themselves or decide from themselves. So that's why I was telling you about the subject of education, because that's also like one of a contrast, because boys get more education than girls, because especially in our little villages far away, people tend to think that why are we going to educate a girl if she's going to stay at home and have kids? She doesn't need the education. Let's just educate our boys.
Claudia, my blood pressure is going to be so high by the end of this interview.
Yeah, I know, mine is as well. As a mom of girls, we have made sure that they are educated, that they are thinking for themselves. And I know I have many friends who do the same, but it's super frustrating being in a country that people think like that. We have to educate our girls because they are going to be mothers and they're educating other human beings. So everyone needs to be educated on the same level, but it's beginning to change little by little, but it's changing, and I have my spirit set up to the positive side.
Excellent. Positive. That's what we need.
Yeah.
How were you supported during your pregnancy and your birth?
Well, I was supported. First, I went to a pregnancy and delivery course with a doctor, a woman doctor, that explained me like all the changes, like how to take care of the baby 101, because I think everyone believes that you are going to know, but when you saw the tiny baby, you don't know.
Yeah.
And yes, and especially for me, my first girl, we had a complicated delivery because the placenta has calcification, so it was like older. So she didn't gain like much weight. She was just 4 pounds. She had a meconium. She has to be taken super fast, because if not, she would have gotten pneumonia or something worse. And also, she had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, just like a necklace. So it was kind of hard for me to have a 4-pound tiny baby. I got the course. I got lots of books. The famous What to Expect When You're Expecting, which I really love it because it offered me precise advice. And I also have like a group of my mother, my mother-in-law, and one close aunt that had experience she's a nurse. That group were my first and close-knit group that offered the advice, the help, and sometimes I think you only need someone that tells you everything is going to be okay because you are sleep deprived, you are not eating well, your body feels like it's not yours. So I think just someone that pats you on the back and says, don't worry, you'll be fine. I think that's kind of the best things that can happen to you in those first days.
Yeah, just a bit of reassurance that you're doing a good job and it's all going to be okay.
Yes. Also, I have the most wonderful pediatrician that he said, since I met him before the delivery, and he said, I am available 24/7. You just need to call me and I'll answer you. He is up to today, he is wonderful, and that gave me a lot of confidence because he said, no matter how small your question is, call me. And he was he still is one of my trusted team that I could always recur and call him. And then my girl grew, and the other group that I started was the Mommy and Me group, or in some countries, I think it's like the baby gym. And that's when I finally connected with other women and other moms that had babies as the age as mine. So we were like a close group, having like the same issues, the same doubts, and we were going out together with our little babies, because your life changes, because you are suddenly a different woman and your single friends or your friends that don't have kids, they go to other places. And it's quite challenging because you want like to go out, but you're having a little person that is demanding your attention and something. And when everyone is in the same thing, it's easier. So it's okay. You go to different places with kids areas or with friendlier menus, but at least you get to talk to adults.
Did you stay in hospital after you had your girls?
No, well, here in Guatemala, because it's a private hospital, it depends on the time you deliver. You can like stay like a couple of days, day and a half, which was the time I stayed, and then I went straight home. With help from my trusted group, not like all day, but from hours. And I also had my wonderful husband, an excellent father that used to wake up at 3 a.m., which is the hardest hour to wake up and feed the babies. He has a light sleep, so he helped me with that, and so I get to rest. And then I stayed alone, and when the second girl was born, it was easier, and with the third, it was even easier.
Did you find it easier or hard to choose names?
The first one, we decided that we didn't want to know if she was going to be a boy or girl. We wanted a surprise. We wanted Latin names that sounded okay with our last names. Here in Guatemala, you use first the father's last name and then the mother's last name. Contrary in like in Europe or in other countries that you only have a family name. Here we use the two.
How does that work later when your kids get married? Do they end up with 4 family names?
Actually, there's 3 options. You get to keep your own name. I have my own name ever since I got married 24 years ago. And when you got married and you make all the legal process, it just says who you were married to, and like you're in your passport or your ID card, it just says married, but your name doesn't change. The other option is that you can change your last name, but you don't change it like in France that you totally change it. Here they use like the single and then the last name of your husband, but they use word de, meaning from. So it's ownership. So
is that what it means?
Yeah, you can do. How nice. In the old days, people got married and said, Claudia, my last name, de, my husband's last name. So de means of.
Owned by.
That's the thing.
Okay.
That's why after this explanation of the last names, well, for us, we chose one girl's name, which is Latin and sounded okay with our last names. We chose one boy's last name. Actually, it's my husband's because here is also like a tradition when you have like a boy, usually he gets like the name of the father. But my husband wasn't lucky. He has only girls. That's the way it is. So we got the first. And then with our second and third, we chose in the same line of having the same style of the name. So everyone is happy with their name. And I also thought about the nicknames or the diminutives of the name, because here us Latin tend to tell everyone like in diminutive or maybe a nickname. So I thought about that. Because sometimes the parents think a very elegant or very meaningful name, and people tend to shorten it or like have a nickname or something. For example, if a guy is called Richard and they say Ricky or Richie, okay, I'm okay with that. But what if?
Yeah, like in England, he'll be called Dick.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was your family leave situation over there? Who got how much time off?
Okay, here is another thing. Only the women get time off at work. With my first girl, I was a professor at a university, so it was an independent job, as may say. So I got pregnant, I finished my classes, and I didn't get like a leave, but they allowed me to leave early and rest. But if I was working like for regular 8 to 5, 8 hour a day job, I get like a month and a half before, which you can actually move to after you have the baby, because maybe you are feeling okay and everything, and so you can go to work up not until the last day, but until the very last, and then you got like, I may say, up to 3 months of leave. It's a paid leave with the Social Security, but only if you work at a formal enterprise that pays for the Social Security. If you work by yourself or you are like at home, you don't get the Social Security, so there's no paid leave for you.
What do people do? They just have to figure it out or rely on family or quit their job?
They just take time off, or they find someone to help them take care of their little baby. And for the husband or the partner, they just get 3 days.
Yeah, that's useful.
Yeah, super useful. One is for the delivery, the other is like to take the wife to home, and the third is to make all the paperwork to inscribe your kid.
It's 3 days off for admin purposes, not to help your wife.
The 3 days are like specific. Some companies, for instance, are giving a little more time, or sometimes guys can ask for vacations or something they can arrange, but some companies, they say, okay, you only have your 3 days, that's it.
And once you were ready to return back to work, what were your childcare options? Were they affordable?
Well, that's another thing. Childcare is also paid and private. I think there are some daycares that are government funded, but they are few. They are not enough. The women that have to return to work, they have to pay for childcare, and it may cost like $200 a month. It depends if you work full-time or part-time, but more or less, usually the majority of women that have to return to work ask some relative, close relative, to take care of their baby. And you can see that many grandparents are in charge in those first years to take care of the babies, or the little kids they go and they pick them up at school because their moms are working. If you don't have all the financial resources to pay, because it's expensive to put your child into a private daycare. Sometimes people may think, okay, I think my salary is not as much, so maybe it's better for me to stay, and then when my baby goes to school, I'll join the workforce again.
What age do kids start school there, and how much does it cost?
Okay, here school, we have the public and the private. The public school system, I think, starts at primary or first grade. Here, first grade is they have to be 7 years old. It's a year older than the rest of the world. And there are some public, like kindergartens, but they are not obligatory. And it's for free. The public schools are free, but the quality, I may say, it's not the best. The exception are maybe just a few public schools, but most of them are not in the great conditions. The buildings, the equipment, also the program is like very outdated, and kids don't get all the materials and books and everything on time sometimes. And they have to pay for their uniforms, and sometimes they have to bring for the materials, like crayons and everything like that. And the private also starts the first year, I think it's around 4 years, 5 more or less. And usually there are like little kindergartens that begin before, because of the difficult to have someone take care of your kids. So usually kids start as toddlers, as 2 years old, just for the morning. And then some schools offer the little kids school, and then offer the primary and all the way to high school. And the cost, it depends on what they offer, because some schools are like international, others offer some other things. On average, the cost is around 350 to, let's say, $500 monthly, more or less.
What's the average wage in Guatemala?
Well, I really don't know, but I'm going to say the minimum salary here is 3,000 quetzales, more or less, which is about almost $400 a month. That's the minimum.
So the math isn't mathing on that.
Yeah, the math is not adding up. But it depends in what area you work, in your experience. So I am just going to like say the minimum. And there are many multinational enterprises that pay super well, or the financial sector, but some just pay the minimum. Here we have lots of call centers as well that hire many young people that they pay them around $1,000 a month. But it depends. But the minimum, it's minimum, and it doesn't add up. It's not enough for you to make ends meet at the end of the month. No.
Do kids get fed at school, or do you have to send packed lunches with them?
Well, in the private sector are both. Some schools have cafeterias, which you have to pay for the lunch, and some schools have lunch boxes. Mine, I send the lunch boxes.
You mentioned that there's some undernutrition in Guatemala.
Yes.
Is that being addressed in schools?
Well, schools is the place to address that, and it has been addressed in the past. But as I was saying to you, we have had our share, I say more than enough share of our corrupt government. So funds are there. There are funds, but the funds seem to go somewhere else, or sometimes they evaporate and disappear. So I think there have been successful programs about feeding the kids breakfast and lunch at school and a nice snack. And I think they are starting it again. And there are many educational NGOs that are trying to promote that and involving the community, so that the community gets together and they prepare for everyone, and they educate and teach them in nutrition and everything, so they are well fed.
Is school mandatory?
Yes, school is mandatory. Public and, well, private of course, but public, yes. But in the public system, they have the problem that there's a high percentage of desertion. After the COVID, many kids didn't continue. And also, usually the majority of kids, especially in the rural areas, stay in school just until the end of the primary school. And then they started like not being as frequent. And it happens as much with the girls. So sometimes the school principals and the teachers, they make an excellent job by convincing the parents and saying, please take your children to school, and then after they can help you with the house chores, or with the planting, or with the taking care of your farm animals and everything, but please, we need them here at school. And they have quite a successful percentage, but not as successful. Not everyone goes, and especially high school. They don't end to finish high school.
Do children do a lot of extracurricular activities?
Well, yes, extracurricular activities are popular here. Well, also paid, not like much community affordable activities. There are in some municipalities, but not for all, because they don't have like the capacity. But for example, the municipality of Guatemala City has an excellent program of piano, ballet, chess, singing, but it's not for all. It's kind of reduced, and there are like many kids. And in the private paying, there's an offer of everything. Kids get to do almost every sport they would want, and ballet, art, theater, whatever they would like. The thing is, for us, sometimes everything is like near our home or the school because traffic is complicated here, but there's an effort, and everyone kinds of gets after school to an extracurricular activity. There are not many like children running around on the streets or in the parks and everything. Everything is just like in specific places.
Do you have a very car-centric lifestyle?
Yeah, if here a car is a must, sadly. And over the years, a lack of planning, I may say, has produced that our traffic sometimes is, wow, it's super complicated. So everyone has a car. We don't have a strong public transportation system. There are few buses, but not as many as required. Some areas are very unsafe to walk. It doesn't matter if you are with someone or not, they are unsafe. Violent areas, so people have a car. And in the last years, people have started buying motorcycles. So it's complicated to get around if you don't have a car. We are like car users all the time.
How much holidays do the kids get off school, and when are they?
School here starts from January to October. There are some schools that have the different calendar from September to June or to August until May, which are called the American or international schools, but the Guatemalan school starts from January till October, and kids get the Easter vacation. They get in June, 1 or 2 weeks, and there are like different holidays like the Independence or some holidays like that. And the big vacations come at the end of the year, November and December.
Okay, October till December. That's not summer over there.
Not summer, but around the end of the year, which is all the celebrations of Christmas or everyone getting together with everyone. So it's November, I may say from November to mid-January, when school starts again.
What language do you speak together as a family?
With my kids, I speak most of the time Spanish, but we also speak English. And well, when they started school, they are in the French school. We started, and after I learned French, and my husband as well, we speak French as well.
When did you learn French?
The girls started in the French school, and the principal of that time suggested that it would be nice if one of us or both of us knew French in order to have the French language as a family language. So he started first because at the time I had 2 of the girls at home. They were super small. And then when the last one started school, I went to the Alliance Française, and then I started my classes. English for me is my first choice for researching, reading, and thinking, because for me it's like more direct. Maybe it's because I learned it since I was super small, and I think after comparing it with the French and comparing it with the Spanish, I think it's more direct, more organized. So for me, it's like my first choice personally. If you said to me, look and Google something, I may look at it in English. For me, that's my choice.
Oh, wow. There's no way I'm Googling things in French.
Oh, no, and don't. Because sometimes it's kind of complicated, because if you don't know, especially if you don't know how to write it, I am sure you know how is it, because French it's a beautiful language, but wow, you have to memorize a lot.
What's the split on housework in your family, and do your girls do chores?
Well, my girls do chores. Well, they started doing age accordingly, and ever since the first choices of picking up their toys, and now they help me with, let's say, the dishes. Everyone is responsible for their own room and like clothes and everything, so everyone shares. My husband also pitches in. He works from home, and some days he goes physically to his office, so everyone is helping all the time. And as the girls got bigger, the house kept cleaner longer. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, because when you have small kids, to keep a clean house is a difficult task.
And what's the split on parenting?
Well, the split on parenting, I may say, I am the one that is on a daily basis, because I am the one that goes and takes the girls to school and picks them up, and I am like the daily reminder on anything. And but my husband is has a very important presence. He is every day, but sometimes he's working late or sometimes he goes early, but he is very present in how are they doing. And I also think he is the security presence of everything. Both of us are very involved, and I think the relationship of a girl is very different to her mom than to her dad.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What time is bedtime generally? I know your kids are older now, but when they were younger, what was bedtime?
Okay, here it's getting complicated because of the traffic. People get up very early because school starts at around 7 or 7:30 a.m.
7 a.m.? Wow,
Yeah,
super
wow,
early.
super. So people get up even before 5 a.m. in the mornings to get kids to school, to the bus or something, and it takes around an hour and a half. And kids return from school from noon to, let's say, around 3 o'clock. Homework and everything. So people usually go to sleep very late. And that's a problem because kids especially need to go to sleep. But here dinner happens around 7, I may say. After that, I think kids go to sleep around, it depends on the age, but around 8 or 9. And the bigger ones go even later, especially if they have lots of homework. But personally, I have been super strict about bedtime ever since they were little kids, because I think when kids don't sleep, they get cranky, and I get cranky as well. When they were younger, we had dinner around 6, an early dinner, and then we get story time, a little calm down, and they went to sleep around 7:30. And now the girls, well, we have dinner not at 6, but at around 7, more or less. And then they go finish if they have reading or something, calm and quiet time, and then they go to sleep because they get up very early during weekdays. It's crazy. And for example, there are some school buses that start picking up kids at 5 a.m.
I'm a little speechless about that.
Yeah, it's a shock even that we are used to, because you have to work with your kids to give them breakfast, because they don't arrive at school and have breakfast. They have until recess at around 9. So that for me was another challenge, to teach them to wake up early and have a little breakfast, not a super complete, but maybe some cereal, some oatmeal, a little bit of fruit and yogurt, just to be with something in their stomachs until the first recess. But some kids don't get the chance to have breakfast.
So if kids are dropped at school at 7, what time are people starting work?
Well, people start work around 8, I may say, but people wake up early to take their kids to school, and then they go to work. And for example, the workday is from, let's say, 8 to 5, but the supermarket is open from 7 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. And the shopping centers are open, let's say, from 9:10 to 10 p.m.
So everyone's up early and down late. When do you sleep?
Yes. We don't sleep.
How do your kids eat?
Over the years, they have changing habits. I try not to force them into anything when they were younger, just like offer them insistently the food, but prepare in different ways. There were times that they only want to eat like the white things, like let's say white rice, white pasta, milk, and let's say chicken. There were other times that they only were like eating one thing, and but I insisted not force them. I think they eat very well. It depends on their mood or if they're like super tired, but I usually give them lots of vegetables and fruits, and we have chicken and meat, but not as much. And I try, well, it has been a few years that I avoid like the super processed and all the artificial colorings and flavorings, and kids get used to. So I think now it's okay for them to have the whole fruit or the whole vegetables and everything. And sometimes they say, "Oh, I think it would be nice if we just buy a plain slice of pizza." Okay, and I say that I don't have to make lunch, so it's okay. Yeah, I think balance, and also especially in girls, because of all the bombardment they have from the media to be thin, to look in certain ways. I keep things in balance, and let's say, okay, you want to eat like a piece of cake, okay, we eat the piece of cake, but we're not gonna be eating like cake every day.
What's a typical weekend like for you as a family?
Well, a typical weekend for us, usually we try to catch up some rest first, and yeah, first, and then we spend like sharing like a family meal once or twice. We usually go out to some other places nearby, sometimes just to get around or to eat something different, or maybe we visit a museum or do some shopping. We try to be together as much as we can, because we have learned that the girls are going soon, they are going to be finishing high school, and then they'll go to the universities. Sometimes they go with their friends, so we understand, because it's okay, they are teenagers, they need to go with their friends. And that's about it. It's a balance of resting and enjoying our time. It depends on if they have like homework or they have like a birthday party of their friends or something, but we get along with all our planning.
How does society view kids in Guatemala? Are kids welcome everywhere? Do you have to go to kid-only spaces? Are people helpful?
Well, I think kids are welcome in most of the places. Guatemala has lots of kids, so kids are welcome in most places. I may say the only places that kids are not welcome are like the super fancy, elegant restaurant, and I think people with little kids don't take them there. And also, there are like certain, especially at the beach, there are like certain hotels that are for adults only. And it's not because something wrong. Maybe it's because they have a DJ with live music all night long. So if you go with young kids, they are not going to sleep at all. Yeah, but that's the only two places, but most of the places are kids friendly. The restaurants have like kids menu, they have the little placemats with crayons. They may help you and say, okay, I'm going to bring you the menu and another side for your kid. So people are like, kids are welcome in most places.
What about, for example, if you need to breastfeed?
Okay, if you need to breastfeed, there are no like special, well, in some shopping centers, there are like the special cubicles, but not everywhere. But I think breastfeeding is accepted. Usually what women do is to put on some, like a scarf. Yeah, it's like a scarf. I used to do that, but people, they don't ask you to leave the restaurant or anything. People are at their table and feeding their kids. And I may say breastfeeding is popular. There are a group of women that supports other women, that they visit you at your home and help you how to prepare, how to put your kid and everything, all breastfeeding related, and in public places, I think all everything is accepted. I think most of the people are like covered with the scarf or like facing backwards the restaurant. So I've never heard like a woman was asked to leave or something. No.
Being a mom can be really isolating. What support networks did you have access to? What's available?
Well, I think it's true. It's isolating. And I think, oh, well, now there are more communities than when I had young babies and kids. There's the first, I may think it's the mommy and me groups that start with babies. And also, as a group or community, I may say I don't know any. But I think women tend to gather and reunite in this kind of groups, or no, and also in the little kids schools where you find that women are struggling with the same things you are struggling with. As we say here in Spanish, we are just drowning in a glass of water and you don't see the light. But when you talk to someone that is struggling with the same, you say, oh, there's a solution. And that's where when you understand. And for me, I think also at a time I was in the baby center Facebook group, and it helped me a lot because I used to be in the forums and everything. I think technology has helped women, even though if you're not in the same area, to get together and to talk to someone, even if it's virtually, to help and get a virtual pat on the back saying everything is going to be okay. When my kids started the school, I got to know other women and we become friends and we share other challenges of, especially of like, let's say, big kids and education, and also the transition from being kids to teenagers. And there's a whole world there that sometimes for one parent it's okay, I let them go somewhere, and for some it's not. And there's a whole different spectrum, and that's another world entering which you don't know anything and say, well, am I doing it right? Am I being too strict? Or maybe I am not. Or because it's hard to, you don't have to compare, but you don't know if you're doing it okay.
Is there any government support available for families?
As in economically or financially?
Yeah, apart from the public school and healthcare systems, which you mentioned could use some improvement, is there any support network or safety net for families?
No, we don't have any additional. No, we don't have.
Is there anything you'd change at a policy level?
Oh, what would I change? I think especially the ones that need the most, I think they need an extra help. And I think we need to change all our education policies. Especially, I think the one that we need to change is the one that refers to sex education in public schools. Because there was sex education in public schools and then it changed and now there isn't. And I think boys and girls need to know that their bodies are changing, why they need to know why the changes are happening. And I also believe that education is key to plan to have a family, to plan for the first kid, and if you want to have more. And I think we need to, as a country, we need to concentrate on that. And with educated women, we can assure that they are going to take better care of themselves, better care of their planned families, and everyone is going to be better. But you cannot demand a woman that doesn't know how her body works to take care of another one. And also that we have a problem also with teenage and little, let's say little, for me they are little girls' pregnancies.
I don't expect you to have the figures off the top of your head, but do you know what the teenage pregnancy rate is in Guatemala?
I really don't know, but I've just read about a couple of weeks ago that we had about 4,000 pregnancies in Guatemala from girls ranging from 9-year-olds to 14, 15 years old.
Wow.
And 4,000 is enormous because they are young girls.
9 to 14, I can feel my anger rising.
It's unacceptable. And I think the root of this problem is education.
You mentioned in your questions that you wanted to add, in addition to the sort of standard ones, about how do you talk to your children about topics like sex education, religion, discrimination, disability, diversity. How do you talk to your girls about those topics?
We have been always very open, and we have always tell our girls that we are the best source for questions. And I said to the girls that the worst question is the one that is not being made. So we are open to discussing all subjects. It has been sometimes uncomfortable moments, especially when they were younger, that they were like asking, like in the middle of a reunion or something. That's why French was our family language. And I said to the girls, if you want to ask something that you think it might not be like the best time, say it to me in French. Yeah, so I got saved from being like in an awkward situation. But I think we as moms should address all topics because children are curious. And when we evade like the topics, kids have the resources to find it for themselves. They know how to search it on Google. So I think it's better if we gave them the right information, age appropriate. And especially for, let's say, all the sexual education and everything. And also, I think about drugs and everything because sometimes kids or even us tend to think that drugs are something like it's not near us, but it's near. And I think it's nearer than we tend to know. So I think it's better to explain our kids, to have communication. So they say, okay, I'm going to ask my mom and want her opinion, and not like they hiding it from you. And also here, because it's kind of a conservative, it's a conservative country. Here we don't have equal marriage. It's not accepted. And I have seen, especially in young persons, that they struggle, especially at the teenage and young adults that are struggling with their own sexuality and all the pressure. It's hard for the young teenagers and the young adults to find their identity. So I think you need to talk to your kids and say, okay, everyone is different. Let's respect our differences. As a country, we are very judgmental. And I think it only causes more trouble than good. I think we should respect each other and respect the differences and find common grounds.
Do you think there's positive change coming?
Yeah, it's changing. I think our younger generation of adults, they are fighting, really. They are fighting and they need our support because they have seen in other parts of the world that have other ways of thinking. Who am I to tell you? So I think younger generations are really pushing into that and also pushing in, for example, abortion. We don't have here that. It's another subject that I think we don't have as a country the maturity to discuss. And the younger generations, I think they are on the way of changing it because we need to sit down and respect each other and be able to find common grounds.
What about in the case of a medical emergency where an abortion is healthcare?
Okay, in the case of a medical emergency that you need to stop your pregnancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in both the public and the private, you can go to your gynecologist and he can make all the exams. For example, if you have like an ectopic pregnancy or something, he can perform the interruption and make the operation. And it's okay. But the conservative Congress people, your blood pressure is going to go up again.
I'll do some deep breathing.
The conservative Congress persons are trying to promote a law that bans the doctor to do that. If the doctor, for example, I get an ectopic pregnancy, so I go to the doctor does the diagnostic and says, okay, we need to operate you because this is not possible and you're going to die. These ultra conservatives are trying to make the ban and say, the doctor does that, he goes to jail. You have to wait, lady.
Wait for the medically impossible that your ectopic pregnancy will solve itself.
You have to wait and pray, and it's okay. And I think it stopped. I think they have not thought about it again, but I think this initiative was put into Congress, I think in 2022 or so. It didn't pass. But I think in El Salvador, which is next to us, they have super strong laws against it. So the doctor can go to prison. Or what if, for example, you're pregnant, everything is okay, and suddenly something passes and the baby dies, which can happen.
Yeah.
They do an investigation, maybe you killed your baby, and the doctor cannot perform like the operation to remove it. You have to wait until your body expels it.
Which is dangerous.
And if you die in between, oh, it's okay. It was God's will. Sorry about your blood pressure going up.
It's just so sad.
Yeah, I think so.
Lighter topic. Another question that you wanted to add in was to discuss that you have a mix of the metric and the imperial system. How does that work?
Yes, for me it has been a challenge. We have a combination because here we don't use kilos, we use pounds. And also for the recipes, for instance, we don't use it like grams, we use ounces. And we use cups and tablespoons. And we use kilometers. And we use meters and centimeters.
Okay, I'm so confused. I would like to speak to whoever was in charge of these decisions.
Exactly. When I see a recipe in English, it's super easy. Cups, tablespoons, and whatever. If I see it in Spanish with the pound, it's super easy. When I see the deciliters and the grams, now I am used to, but it's complicated. I measure 1 meter and centimeters. We don't use inches, we don't use kilos, and it's kind of complicated.
I'm going to send you one of these amazing things called an electronic scale from IKEA that can convert.
Well, I thank you already, but that's another thing we don't have here. We don't have a postal service.
What?
Yeah, that's another thing. We have every country.
You were going to tell me you didn't have scales.
No. That's another thing. It's funny.
Is it?
We used to have our government postal service, but then it was there came a government that privatized everything, and they privatized the postal service with I think the German post, and it worked everything. And then I don't know, the contract was for a period of time, and then it ended. And then it was returned to the government, and then it stopped. So if you send me like the nice scale, it would probably get lost. And I think they are started to going back to it again, but it's not as efficient.
What are your favorite traditions in Guatemala?
Well, I think I have two. First, the birthdays. Birthdays are like very special. Everyone gets like a cake. The happy birthday. I think if you go to a restaurant and you say, it's my birthday, they give you the dessert. Everyone like sings the person of the restaurant. And at each house, birthdays are like very traditional. The cake, the special dinner, the gift. So it's something I really like. And also Christmas, I think it's one of the most beautiful traditions in Guatemala. We have like a mix of the American thing with the Santa Claus, and all the decorations are like with snow, even if we don't have any. And everything is like decorated super nice. And we also have the little figurines of Jesus and Virgin Mary and everything. It depends on if the family is religious or not. And also it's a time to get around with friends, family, eat all the traditional Guatemalan recipes as well as the international recipes as cookies, turkey, potatoes and sweet potatoes and everything like we get to eat during all month of December.
What is a traditional Guatemalan Christmas dish?
Well, a Guatemalan Christmas dish mainly is the tamal, which is a mixture of cornmeal. Here we prepare it with it's cornmeal with you add a tomato sauce made from scratch. Usually they add the turkey or chicken breast and you fold the tamale into the banana leaf and you cook it. That's the red tamal, and there's also the black one, which is made the same way but with a chocolate sauce. It has the chicken or the turkey or the meat, but it with a chocolate sauce and with a prune and almonds. That's the traditional. Yeah, and hot chocolate to drink.
What do you love the most about being a mom in Guatemala?
Well, I think the thing I love most is that I think my kids are welcome everywhere and we have a very beautiful country. We have many beautiful places and that's what I love the most, that they live in a beautiful country. Even though we have to work on lots of areas and it's not like one of the safest, but overall we are happy.
And what's your biggest fear raising kids?
Well, my biggest fear is insecurity and violence. And also girls are like in kind of danger because sometimes girls are not as respected as boys. And that's my biggest fear because sometimes for me, I get frustrated not to be able to give all the freedom my kids sometimes ask because it's not like the safest environment. So in other parts of the world, kids go to the school by themselves. They take the metro, the bus and everything. And here sometimes we have to be like almost all the time with them or sending messages, tell me you arrived, tell me you're okay. And that's kind of frustrating sometimes.
And my final question, what animal noises are different over there to what I would expect in English?
I really love that. For us, first, I think cats sound the same because it's meow, so I think it's the same. Dogs sound wow, which almost.
But it's spelled G-U-A-U.
Yeah, it's spelled different. But the sound, I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Also, the chicken, it's which is different. And the rooster, which for me is like super different, is kikiriki.
He sounds very
Kikiriki,
proud.
it's different. And the cow is moo.
Okay, standard.
But moo with only MU, not flow,
of
but
course.
MU.
Okay. Tricked me there.
Yeah, they are spelled different.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. And I definitely, let's not make it a first and a last. I would like to talk to you again and maybe we can like create recipes or something. I think we can work on that.
That's such a good idea, adding recipes, sharing to this project.
Yeah.
Ah, great. New idea. Okay, well, have a really nice day.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. I'll be taking a short break while I regroup for season 2, but there are 2 really exciting bonus episodes coming out soon. If you like the podcast, please share it with your friends, as that's the best way to help other people find me. See you again soon.